Opening hook, shock factor. August 25th, 2025. A date that will be remembered in both financial and political history. Without warning, President Donald J. Trump walked into the White House press briefing room and delivered a bombshell. In front of a stunned press corps, he announced that he was removing Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook from her position. The reason, according to Trump, was not a disagreement over monetary policy or interest rates. It wasn't even about ideology. Instead, the president accused Cook of something far more sensational: mortgage fraud. Reporters froze. The cameras kept flashing, but for a split second the entire room seemed paralyzed. No president in living memory had ever done this. No one had dared to remove a sitting governor of the Federal Reserve. The institution was designed to be independent, deliberately shielded from political maneuvering. Yet here was Trump, standing at the podium, declaring that he had fired Lisa Cook for corruption.
Country. Let's go.
Lastly, sir, this is an executive order on flag burning. It charges your attorney general.
Would you listen to this? This is very important. Flag burning. All over the country, they're burning flags. All over the world, they burn the American flag. And as you know, through a very sad court, I guess it was a 5-4 decision, they called it freedom of speech. But there's another reason, which is perhaps much more important. It's called death. Because what happens when you burn a flag is the area goes crazy. If you have hundreds of people, they go crazy. You could do other things. You can burn this piece of paper. But when you burn the American flag, it incites riots at levels that we've never seen before. People go crazy. In a way, both ways. There are some that are going crazy for doing it. There are others that are angry about them doing it. Do you want to discuss that?
Sure. So what the executive order does, sir, it charges your Department of Justice with investigating instances of flag burning, and then where there's evidence of criminal activity, where prosecution wouldn't fall afoul of the First Amendment, and instructs the Department of Justice to prosecute those who are engaged in these instances of flag burning.
And what the penalty is going to be, if you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. No early exits, no nothing. You get 1 year in jail. If you burn a flag, and what it does is incite to riot. I hope they use that language, by the way. Did they?
Yeah, incitement is
incite to riot. And you burn a flag, you get 1 year in jail. You don't get 10 years, you don't get 1 month. You get 1 year in jail, and it goes on your record. And you will see flag burning stopping immediately, just like when I signed the Statute and Monument Act. 10 years in jail if you hurt any of our beautiful monuments. Everybody left town. They were gone. Never had a problem after that. It's pretty amazing. We stopped it. But this is something that's, I don't know, in a certain way, it's equally as important. Some people would say it's more important. Because the people in this country don't want to see our American flag burned and spit on. And by people that are, in many cases, paid agitators. They're paid by the radical left to do it. You talk to these people, they don't even know, half of them don't even know what they're doing. They say, I don't know, they gave me money to do this. I see the same things that you do. They're bad people. They're trying to destroy our nation. That's not working, because I think our nation now is the most respected nation anywhere in the world, by far. You saw that with the European leaders on Friday. You saw that with NATO, where they agreed to go from 2% no pay to 5% fully paid up, trillions of dollars paid, where they respect your president to a level that they jokingly call me the president of Europe. They call me the president of Europe, which is an honor. I like Europe, and I like those people. They're good people. They're great leaders. And we've never had a case where 7 plus really 28, essentially 38 countries were represented here the other day. 38 European countries were represented. European and other countries were represented. And it was a great meeting. But your country is respected again. I say it all the time. 1 year ago, our country was dead. Everybody said it. We had a dead country. We were not going to survive. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. So it's an honor to be involved. And this group has a lot to do with it, right behind me. Does anybody behind me have anything? Pam, would you like to say something?
Sure, President. Thank you for keeping D.C. safe.
Issued a global alert its message flashing across trading floors from London to Hong Kong. The Washington Post, within minutes, released an early analysis under a searing title that accused the president of turning mortgage filings into a new political weapon. Television networks cut into live programming. CNN switched from a routine panel discussion to wall-to-wall coverage. Fox News filled its screen with bold red graphics. Breaking. President Trump removes Fed Governor Lisa Cook. MSNBC anchors shook their heads in disbelief, calling it an unprecedented assault on the independence of America's central bank. Markets were already trembling. The U.S. dollar slipped as traders scrambled. Treasury yields dropped. Investors across the world tried to calculate what this announcement meant for stability. Central bank independence is one of the bedrocks of the global economy, and suddenly that foundation looked less secure. Politicians moved just as quickly. Democrats blasted the move as unconstitutional, an abuse of power that threatened the nation's economic credibility. Some Republicans offered support, praising Trump's toughness, while others looked visibly unsettled, quietly worrying about the precedent this might set. Inside the Federal Reserve, silence was the only response. Jerome Powell, the chair, gave no immediate statement. Staffers whispered among themselves. Some were outraged, others frightened. Everyone understood what this could mean. If a president could dismiss one governor, what was stopping him from reshaping the entire Fed to his liking? On social media, the storm was unstoppable. Supporters of Trump hailed him for draining the swamp inside the Federal. Critics accused him of fabricating allegations to target an independent official. Memes and commentary flooded platforms, some mocking Cook, others portraying her as a victim of political persecution. But to understand why this moment was so shocking, one has to understand who Lisa Cook is, and why her removal struck such a deep nerve. Lisa Cook is no ordinary figure in Washington. She is a highly respected economist with years of academic achievement and government service behind her. A graduate of Spelman College and the University of California, Berkeley, she later conducted postdoctoral research at Harvard and Stanford. Her expertise ranges from economic history to innovation policy. When she was nominated to the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, her appointment was hailed as historic. She became the first black woman to serve as a Fed governor, a milestone that carried deep symbolic and institutional significance. Cook had worked in government before, serving in the Obama administration as a senior economist on the Council of Economic Advisors. She also spent years as a professor at Michigan State University, earning recognition for her research into economic growth, financial markets, and the history of racial inequality in America. Colleagues often describe her as sharp, disciplined, and deeply principled. Her appointment to the Fed in 2022 had not come without controversy. Republicans at the time argued she lacked direct experience in monetary policy. Her defenders, however, pointed to her deep academic expertise and the diversity of perspective she would bring to a historically insular institution. After a bitter confirmation battle, she was confirmed and sworn in, beginning a term that was expected to run until 2026. That was the context that made Trump's announcement so extraordinary. A woman who had broken barriers, who had earned respect in academic and financial circles, was being cast out in front of the entire nation with accusations of fraud. The allegations themselves seemed oddly specific and strangely personal. According to Trump, she had misrepresented mortgage information, claiming two separate properties as primary residences. Mortgage fraud is a serious accusation. In ordinary terms, it means lying to a bank or lender to secure better terms on a loan. But for a Federal Reserve governor, the stakes were much higher. Any hint of dishonesty or financial manipulation could tarnish the credibility of the institution they serve. By framing the accusation in such blunt terms, Trump wasn't just firing Cook. He was branding her as corrupt, untrustworthy, and unfit to hold office. Reporters shouted questions at him. Was there evidence? Who had investigated these claims? Could a president legally fire a Federal Reserve governor? Trump did not linger to explain. He left the room as abruptly as he had entered it, leaving behind chaos and uncertainty. The announcement raised immediate questions. First, the legality. Under U.S. law, Federal Reserve governors are appointed for fixed terms precisely to protect them from political interference. Their removal is not a power traditionally granted to the president. Second, the evidence. No one had seen documentation to support Trump's claim. Mortgage filings are public records, but the allegations seem to come out of nowhere. Third, the precedent. If this could be done once, what would stop it from happening again? Political analysts fill the airwaves with speculation. Some argue that Trump had no legal basis for the action, and that the courts would eventually overturn it. Others suggested that, legal or not, the move was a warning shot to the Federal Reserve. Fall in line with the president's wishes, or risk removal. For Trump supporters, this was another example of him keeping his promise to fight corruption. They pointed to the allegations as proof that he was willing to act where others had looked the other way. For his critics, it was proof of something far darker, an authoritarian impulse to control independent institutions by fabricating charges against opponents. And for the world of finance, it was a nightmare. Markets thrive on predictability, stability, and trust. The Federal Reserve's independence is a cornerstone of that trust. With a single announcement, Trump had shaken that foundation, and the consequences were already rippling across the globe. Initial fallout. The announcement triggered a shockwave inside Washington. At the White House, aides scrambled to explain the president's decision. Spokespeople repeated the line that Lisa Cook had engaged in mortgage fraud and that the president had no choice but to act. They refused to provide documents or evidence, insisting that the facts would come out in due time. Behind closed doors, officials were caught off guard. Even some senior members of the administration had not been briefed in advance. Staffers whispered that Trump had made the decision suddenly. After being presented with information he claimed showed Cook's misconduct. Whether that information was credible or not remained unclear. Inside the Federal Reserve, silence reigned. The institution that normally spoke in carefully worded statements about interest rates and inflation offered nothing. Chair Jerome Powell remained silent, his office refusing to comment. Other governors and staff members avoided public statements, though leaks suggested deep anger and concern. For an institution that depends on stability and independence, this was a moment of crisis. Opposition party outrage. On Capitol Hill, Democrats erupted in outrage. They called the move an attack on democracy and the independence of financial institutions. Leaders warned that if the president could remove one governor, nothing would prevent him from reshaping the entire Federal Reserve according to his own preferences. Some called for immediate investigations. Others urged the courts to intervene. Progressive lawmakers described the allegations as a cover for an authoritarian power grab. Moderates, too, expressed alarm, pointing out that no legal precedent supported Trump's claim of authority to remove a Fed governor. Even a handful of Republicans spoke cautiously, suggesting that if the removal was not properly justified, it could set a dangerous precedent. Media frenzy. News organizations scrambled to keep up with the whirlwind. The Wall Street Journal led with a headline declaring the president had fired a Federal Reserve governor for alleged fraud. Reuters flashed alerts around the globe, shaking financial markets in Asia and Europe. The Washington Post ran an analysis suggesting Trump had discovered a new political weapon in mortgage filings. The Associated Press reminded readers that this was the first time in history a president had claimed to dismiss a Fed governor. Television networks devoted wall-to-wall coverage. CNN brought in constitutional scholars and economists. Fox News ran a split screen of Trump's statement alongside commentators who debated whether the move was justified. MSNBC aired panel discussions warning of long-term damage to American institutions. Every network carried the same sense of disbelief. This was something the United States had never seen before. Social media storm. Online platforms exploded with reactions. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok filled with posts dissecting the allegations. Supporters of Trump celebrated the decision, praising him for rooting out corruption and attacking the so-called deep state. Critics accused him of fabricating charges to silence an independent voice. Memes appeared almost instantly, some mocking Lisa Cook, others mocking Trump, and many highlighting the surreal nature of the event. Influencers and analysts posted long threads trying to explain what it all meant. Hashtags trended worldwide, and debates raged in comment sections. For many ordinary citizens, the details of mortgage filings and central banking were confusing, but the symbolism was clear. A president had just shaken one of the country's most powerful institutions. Global reaction. The international response was immediate. Financial markets trembled. The U.S. dollar fell against other major currencies. Treasury yields dipped as investors sought safer assets. Stock markets around the world showed signs of anxiety, with sudden drops followed by frantic recoveries. Economists outside the United States warned that if the Federal Reserve was no longer independent, global confidence in the stability of the dollar could weaken. Central banks in Europe and Asia monitored the situation closely, knowing that instability in the U.S. financial system could ripple across the globe. Commentators in London and Frankfurt warned of a dangerous precedent, comparing it to countries where political leaders had undermined their central banks with disastrous results. In Asia, markets reacted with volatility as traders tried to calculate the risks. The sense of unease spread far beyond Washington. Closing cliffhanger. The first hours after Trump's announcement ended in confusion, anger, and fear. Questions remained unanswered. Was Lisa Cook truly guilty of mortgage fraud? Did the president have the legal authority to remove her? Or was this the beginning of a larger struggle over the independence of the Federal Reserve? As the sun set in Washington, reporters, politicians, and citizens alike were left with the same unsettling question. If a president could dismiss a Fed governor on allegations that had not been proven, what would come next? The stage was set for Act Two, where the spotlight would shift from Trump's bold declaration to Lisa Cook herself. Who was she? What did she represent? And were the allegations against her grounded in fact or in politics?